Have you ever felt it? That quiet, persistent sense of being a stranger in your own skin, a ghost in the machine, a single, fragile point of awareness looking out at a vast, indifferent universe through two small windows we call eyes. This feeling of separation is the silent hum beneath the noise of our lives. It's the invisible architect of our deepest fears, our most desperate ambitions, and our endless search for meaning. We spend our entire existence trying to bridge this gap. We search for it in love, in success, in religion, in knowledge. We build empires, create art, and pray to distant gods, all in an attempt to feel less alone, less separate, less temporary. But what if this fundamental feeling, the very bedrock of our identity, is not a fact of existence? What if it's a mistake? A primordial glitch in perception passed down through generations, an ancestral lie that we accepted as truth before we could even speak. This isn't a philosophical game. It is perhaps the most important investigation a human being can undertake. Because the evidence, echoed in the whispers of ancient mystics and now mirrored in the strange frontiers of science, suggests that the separate self does not actually exist. And the recognition of this truth does not just change your life. It dismantles the entire reality you thought you knew. To understand this, we have to travel back in time, not just centuries but millennia. The story of the separate self is the story of civilization. It began when we drew the first line in the sand, separating us from them, sacred from profane, and ultimately, human from divine. The great religious traditions, for all their wisdom, became the primary enforcers of this division. They painted a picture of a creator who was fundamentally external to his creation. God was in a distant heaven, a perfect, all-powerful entity, while we were here below, flawed, sinful, and mortal creatures. This created a power dynamic of epic proportions. Life became a performance, a test, a trial period where we had to prove our worthiness to an unseen judge. Priests, gurus, and institutions became the essential intermediaries, the gatekeepers who held the keys to a kingdom we were born outside of. But this chasm wasn't just carved by religion. Philosophy dug it deeper. When René Descartes famously declared, "I think, therefore I am," he severed mind from body, observer from the observed. He codified the feeling of being an isolated consciousness trapped inside a biological machine. This single idea became the foundation of modern science and our entire worldview. We began to see the universe as a dead, mechanical object, and ourselves as random accidents of chemistry, collections of atoms that somehow, inexplicably, learned to feel. We became experts at dissecting the parts, but we completely forgot that a wholeness ever existed. We learned to map the brain, but we lost our minds. This is the world we were born into, a world built on the blueprint of separation. And this blueprint is the source code of all our suffering. Because when you believe you are a separate, fragile fragment, you live in a state of perpetual fear. Fear of lack, fear of pain, fear of others, and above all, fear of death, the ultimate confirmation of your isolated existence ending. But throughout this entire history, there were whispers of a different reality. Voices from the fringes, mystics and sages who spoke of a radical unity. The Hindu Upanishads declared Atman is Brahman. The individual soul is the universal whole. The Buddha taught that the separate self, the ego, was an illusion to be seen through. And Jesus' profound statement, "I and the Father are one," was not a claim of exclusive divinity, but a universal truth available to all. Yet these voices were often silenced, their messages distorted and reabsorbed into the very systems of separation they sought to expose. Then, in the 20th century, a man named Joel Goldsmith, a spiritual healer and mystic from New York, began to articulate this ancient truth with a stunning and uncompromising clarity. Goldsmith was not a traditional preacher. He had no church, no dogma, and no desire for followers. He called himself a spiritual diagnostician, and his diagnosis was simple. Humanity was suffering from a case of mistaken identity. He called this the primordial error. The belief that there are two powers, two realities, God and man, the divine and the human, the perfect and the imperfect. Goldsmith stated that this was a cosmic illusion. There is only one reality, one infinite, indivisible consciousness, one life. And everything we see, everything we are, is that one life appearing in infinite forms. Think of it like this. Imagine pure white light. It is one, formless and complete. Now imagine that light passing through a prism. It fractures into a dazzling spectrum of colors: red, green, blue, yellow. The colors are distinct. Red is not blue. But is the red separate from the light? Is the blue? No. They are simply the one light being expressed in different frequencies. Their substance, their very essence, is still the light itself. This, Goldsmith taught, is the nature of our existence. The one infinite consciousness, what we might call God, is the light. You, me, every person, every animal, every star, and every galaxy are the individual colors. We appear to be separate, with unique bodies, minds, and histories. But our underlying substance is one and the same. You are not a human being trying to find God. You are God appearing as a human being. The separation never happened. The distinction is only in form, never in essence. This simple, radical idea changes everything. Let's start with healing. Our entire model of medicine, both physical and psychological, is based on the idea of fixing something broken. We see disease as an invading enemy, a malfunction in the machine that must be fought and defeated. But if our true identity is the one, perfect, and eternal life, then what is disease? From this higher perspective, disease is a mirage. It is a negative image held in the collective human mind, a shadow projected onto the body. It has appearance, but it has no substance. Just like the two train tracks that appear to converge and meet on the horizon. The appearance is convincing. You can even take a picture of it, but it is not the truth. The tracks remain perfectly parallel. True spiritual healing, then, is not a process of changing a sick body into a healthy one. It is the act of looking past the illusion, of withdrawing our belief in the mirage of imperfection, and recognizing the perfect spiritual reality that was always present, right here and now. It is a shift in consciousness, not a manipulation of matter. When this shift occurs, the illusion dissolves, sometimes instantly, and what we call a healing is simply the appearance of the perfection that was always the truth. This same principle revolutionizes our understanding of prayer. For centuries, prayer has been a petition. We beg a distant God for help, for intervention, for a change in our circumstances. This entire act reinforces the illusion of separation. It solidifies the belief that we are here, lacking and powerless, and God is out there, holding all the power. But if God is the very consciousness that is you, who are you talking to? The nature of prayer shifts from a desperate conversation to a silent communion. It is no longer about asking for something you don't have, but about recognizing the fullness you already are. It is the practice of consciously remembering your true identity. The words, "I and the Father are one," become the ultimate prayer, not a request, but a statement of fact. You quiet the mind not to send a message out, but to hear the truth that is already within. In that silence, you find that the peace, the harmony, and the abundance you were seeking were never absent. They were simply obscured by the noise of a mind that believed itself to be separate. Perhaps the most challenging implication is how this transforms our relationship with time. Our civilization is addicted to the future. We live in a state of perpetual becoming. We work for a future retirement. We endure today for a promised happiness tomorrow. We perform spiritual practices to achieve enlightenment one day. The future is a hook that keeps us running on a treadmill, always chasing a horizon that recedes as we approach. But spiritual truth is not a future event. Perfection is not a goal to be achieved. The divine reality is. It is an eternal now. It is the only moment that ever exists. When we say God is, we are making a profoundly practical statement. We are refusing to place our faith in the illusion of time. The ego lives in the past and the future, in memory and anticipation. But our true nature, the divine consciousness, lives only in this present moment. By bringing our full attention to the now, we step out of the stream of time and into the ocean of eternity. The anxiety of what's to come dissolves because we realize that nothing essential can be added to us in the future, nor was anything essential taken from us in the past. We are already whole. We are already complete. Now, when you begin to see the world through this lens of unity, you start to notice how deeply the illusion of separation is embedded in our social structures. Our entire economic system of capitalism is built on the engine of scarcity and desire. It functions by convincing you that you are fundamentally lacking and that you can purchase your completeness through products, experiences, and status. It requires you to be a hungry ghost, forever consuming but never satisfied. But what happens to that engine when you realize you lack nothing? When you know your true self is infinite and whole? The frantic desire for more begins to fade, replaced by a sense of enough. Our political and social systems are often built on the currency of fear. The narrative of us versus them is the oldest trick in the book for controlling populations. It requires us to identify as part of a tribe, defined by what we are not, defined by our opposition to the other. But what happens to tribalism, to nationalism, to racism, when you see the face of your own self in every single person you meet? Not as a poetic ideal, but as a literal reality. The other is a reflection of the one life, the same life that you are. The foundation of conflict evaporates. This is why this knowledge has been called the Great Secret. Not because it was intentionally hidden by some shadowy cabal, but because its implications are so profoundly revolutionary that our entire civilization is, in a way, designed to prevent us from realizing it. It is a secret hidden in plain sight. Realizing your true nature is the ultimate act of rebellion. It is a quiet revolution that happens not in the streets, but in the silent temple of your own consciousness. It frees you from being a pawn in systems that run on your fear and your desire. It makes you ungovernable in the most profound sense of the word. So where does this leave us? Is it enough to simply understand this intellectually? The mystics are clear on this point. A concept of water will never quench your thirst. This truth cannot remain a beautiful theory. It must become a lived, direct experience. This is the role of true meditation. Not as a technique to calm the mind or reduce stress, although it does those things, but as a laboratory for the investigation of consciousness itself. When you sit in silence, you begin to observe the frantic activity of the mind that believes it is you. The constant narration, the judgments, the planning, the worrying. You see that this mental noise is a relentless machine for creating and maintaining the story of a separate self. True meditation is the art of stepping back from that narrator, of gently and repeatedly withdrawing your attention from the thoughts and placing it into the silent awareness that lies behind them. In the gaps between thoughts, you get a glimpse of your true nature, a presence that is vast, silent, peaceful, and untethered to the drama of the personal self. This is not about creating a new state, but about discovering the one that has always been here, buried beneath the noise. It is a process of undoing, of unlearning, of letting go. You are not building anything. You are simply allowing the illusion to fall away. This is the journey from the head to the heart. It is the final frontier. You have never been just a human being. That was the costume. That was the role you were playing. You are the divine consciousness itself, experiencing reality through a temporary human lens. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean, expressing itself for a little while as a beautiful, unique, and precious wave. To recognize this is to come home. To live from this recognition is to be truly free. It is to finally awaken from the long, collective dream of separation and to realize, with a clarity that shatters all doubt, that there is only one of us here.